And good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Facebook Live with myself, Ruth, from Top Schools. Thank you for tuning in. And we have a little bit of a different show for you today. We have a guest, and in just a moment I will introduce that guest. So today we're not doing the normal Q&A format. If you have questions for me related to independent schools in the UK or international schools in Hong Kong, they will have to wait for next week, I'm afraid. So welcome to those who are watching live. You do have the opportunity to ask questions to our guest. And if you're watching this on catch-up, you're also most welcome to put questions in the comments. I know that most people do actually watch the replay. So without further ado, may I invite my guest this afternoon, depending on where you are, Jeremy Quartermain, who is the head of Rossall School in Lancashire in the UK. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, Ruth, and it's lovely to have the opportunity to talk to you this afternoon, or this evening.
Thank you.
And,
Right, well, you and I are both in the UK at the moment. I'll be flying back in a couple of days. And also for your staff, you will also be in Hong Kong on Saturday the 21st. So more details about that at the end. So Jeremy, we want to talk about, Rossall School, but more importantly, we're not focusing on academics today, because I think the default mode for a lot of parents when they're looking for a school is to look at the academic results and only the academic results. And I think that's a mistake. And I know that Rossall School has both an elite football program and also an elite music program. So that's what we're here to talk about mainly today. But if you have questions, if you have a budding football player or musician, then you might want to listen a bit more closely. So where should we start? Should we dispense with the academics quite quickly? Of course, at your school, you cover an academic program.
Sure,
Tell us just
absolutely,
briefly about that.
Yeah, so we offer the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. We offer A-levels, we offer BTEC in sports, and we have an incredibly diverse curriculum. So we have students who go off to Cambridge to read classics, Imperial College, Warwick, St Andrews, Edinburgh to read natural science. But we also have a lot of great sports stars of the future with us. And of course, we have our musicians who go off to music conservatoires, both here in the UK and overseas. So that gives, in a nutshell, about 50% of our students will get an A or a star or a distinction within their BTEC, and our IB average is in the mid-30s. So for an inclusive school community, academically, we're certainly punching above our weight and adding considerable value as well for our students.
Yeah, so we just wanted to sort of deal with that, obviously, because school is, I guess predominantly academics, but a UK school, particularly UK boarding school, is so much more than that. So maybe before we talk about the actual programs that you offer, should we just, tell us a little bit more from your point of view as an educator, why it's so important to offer more than academics?
Yeah, so I think you touched on this, Ruth, in your introduction, the hallmark of a good independent school education in the UK, strong academics, an outstanding quality of teaching and learning. It should be pretty much a given. But I think that school communities, independent school communities in the UK, distinguish themselves in many, many other ways. And it's the holistic nature of the offering, which is such an attractive proposition for many parents. And we talk about character development, we talk about the outstanding quality of pastoral care, but it's the sheer abundance of co-curricular opportunities that are on offer, which really, I think, leave a lasting impression on many of our students and help them to develop those softer skills in terms of confidence, communication, creativity, and so forth, which are so sought after by employers and, of course, universities. And within all of that, we have a number of students who really want to pursue elite performance in their chosen interests or disciplines, or the things that they want to dedicate themselves to.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You mentioned sort of these character traits that are that these extracurricular activities really do support, because children might not be particularly good in all of their academic subjects, but we want to focus on where their passions lie and their strengths and the intersection of those two things, right?
Absolutely. And I think
Let's talk a little. Sorry, go ahead.
So as I say, our boarding community, we have 320 boarders, and they've just come back from residential trips to the Lake District, which is very, very lucky, is on our doorstep, where they spent the weekend kayaking, canoeing, out on lakes, climbing trees, doing high ropes and all sorts of exciting things. And again, for many students who've perhaps been used to a more sedentary lifestyle, or I think certainly in the digital age that we live in, where they can be quite solitary, that sense of activities which lead to a sense of community and engender a collegiate mindset is so important as well.
I totally agree. So let's focus on the two programs. So we want to talk about an elite football program that Rossall School is launching, and I want to understand a little bit more about the difference between your program and a football academy, because I think that the football academy structure is fairly.
Yes. So I think that the main difference between a football academy and the football program, the football academy, obviously, where typically in the past players would have joined a club and been educated through a fairly limited educational provision within a club, might suit or does suit individuals or children where football's the only dimension of their life. What we're offering, and what we have offered for some time now, I mean, we've just launched a partnership with Manchester City Football Club, but before that we were partnered with a local club very successfully, Fleetwood Town. But what we're offering young people is the opportunity to have a really first-class education, but within the context of a regular independent school experience, also to have access to an outstanding level of coaching. So the young boys and girls on our program, they are receiving excellent strength and conditioning support. They receive physio support, advice from nutritionists, regular, obviously, training almost every day of the week. But within that, there's a real expectation that they dedicate themselves to all areas of school life. And some of the most successful students on our football program are also really successful academically. So, we have children who go off and play professionally and achieve professional contracts at the end of their time at school with us. But they would also have played with a team of keen footballers who would have perhaps run a scholarship, 100% scholarship to the US, or they've gone to University College London to read for a degree in astrophysics. So what we do, both within music and within the Football Academy itself, is to provide world-class training, but not at the expense of an overall really high-quality educational experience, and that's really important to us.
That's really interesting. I mean, is that by implication, are you saying that maybe in some of the other football academies it's just football and only football, and then maybe the other academics do suffer?
Sure. Well, I think that, to be fair to some of the bigger clubs now, like Manchester City Football Club themselves, that they do put a lot of thought into the educational offering. So another club which does that very well would be Arsenal, for example. But many clubs within the UK, it's fairly one-dimensional. They might offer a BTEC in sports and exercise science, but that will usually be will usually constitute the major part of their educational offering. And it's not just about that, it's about the level of pastoral care and the support which is in place here within a school environment, which is obviously so much better than if you're living with a host family or living in a sort of hostel and then just sort of turning up for training. And if you're very, very lucky, you might be taken on at the age of, you might sign a professional contract, but many of those professional contracts are only for 1 year, and then you leave without necessarily, from the football club setup, without necessarily having, you know, a couple of A-levels, 3 A-levels, and all the options which come with that. So I think it's also about recognizing, and I think you increasingly see this within the game itself, that because you're a footballer or because you're a musician doesn't mean that you desire to be one-dimensional. And what I really love to see is that in a school like ours, we have some of our top footballers who will turn up for a concert of classical music given by the musicians, and they will take part in the school musical, and they will invest in other areas of school life as well, because I think they're very mindful of the fact that there will be life beyond football. And it's also our responsibility to work with parents and with children to make sure that actually there is a really credible and exciting path for them post 18, because as we all know, and not everyone is going to go on to be a professional footballer, in just the same way as not every fine pianist is going to go on and debut in the Carnegie Hall.
That is really interesting. So I think what you're saying is that you see there's correlation in terms of the character development of the children that are really engaged in something that they're passionate about. If they're doing sport to an elite standard or music, then that's transferable into other areas.
Absolutely. So I think
Right?
There's a real synergy there. And I think that many of the skills, so I come from a musical background. I went off to university in the first instance to read music. And most of the skills, and I noticed this as well in terms of our sports academies, that most of the skills are, of course, transferable. So the very sort of character attributes which lead to success on the field, really rigorous training, discipline, strong teamwork, resilience, positive mindset, and so forth. All of those things also lead to success in the classroom. And I think that's why we have so many footballers who are flourishing academically, because they're bringing the same determination, the same mindset that they have honed within a playing dimension. They're bringing that also to their academic studies as well, and it's serving them very well indeed.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that time and time again with children that we've worked with, and with one of my own children as well. And to that point, then, what would you say to parents that, you know, or to the children that are not that keen on getting involved in these kinds of things? You know, how do you really encourage? Because for me, what a boarding school in the UK offers is incredible. I mean, they're so incredibly fortunate to have access to all these opportunities. Do you find that some children might be a little bit reticent, and how do you encourage them to get involved?
I think that's a really, really good question, because you can have as many opportunities as you want, but how do you actually encourage children to participate? I think it's about inspiring. It's finding the hook, isn't it? It's about inspiring young people to want to be engaged. And I think the way we do that here is that it's pretty cool to be involved in music. It's cool here to care about the quality of community that you're living in. It always amazes me sometimes in some of our boarding houses. You'll have somebody who's maybe living in a next door to a very, very keen footballer who's maybe got a trial with a club in the northwest of England, but they're also living next door to somebody who's off for an interview at the Royal Northern College of Music or the Royal College of Music in London. And they have an interest in each other's life. And I think the community aspect of a school like ours, the structure of the boarding houses, that sense there's a real virtue in being part of something which is bigger than yourself, and having a sense of belonging isn't one-dimensional. And there's, we have a house singing competition, for example. Everyone participates in that. In a couple of weeks, we'll be auditioning for our school musical, Grease, and I can guarantee that there will be a good few of our sports, the students who predominantly specialise in sports, who will want to be involved in that. And speaking as a parent myself, and speaking as a lifelong learner who's inquisitive in every dimension of human existence, I think that we all want for our children that desire for them to be endlessly curious and to want to engage beyond the curriculum. We've just launched a series of lectures for our sixth form called Rossall Inspires. The first one I gave 2 or 3 days ago was about the history of adoption and touched on my personal story. And I think that providing young people with a really strong and varied cultural, intellectual hinterland where they want to engage, because there's a human dimension to the stories that we're telling them, is really, really important as well.
Yeah. Intellectual bite that I'll be using. So my apologies for any internet connectivity issues. Am I back?
You're back now.
Okay.
I think I might have missed that
So
last.
I wanted to ask you. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to recap on a very great soundbite. Intellectual and cultural hinterland, wasn't it, that you said?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So sorry.
Let's go ahead.
I think it's for us. There's no compulsion in terms of all the activities that we offer. Say, for example, in our sixth form, children have the opportunity to dip in, to dip out, and to choose what they're going to commit to. But they're living in a community where there is a general expectation, a high level of expectation of engagement. And actually, something our head of sixth form, Nick Crombie, says all the time is that idea that you come to us, but you leave us as a better person. And he majors on that. And the reason why he majors on it is because it does resonate with our pupils. So, there are very few pupils within our sixth form who don't want to be engaged in various different activities, whether that's a charity project in Ghana, which they do every year, or whether it's debating or whatever it is. I would be hard pressed to think of a student who hasn't got a number of strings to their bow and who doesn't leave the sixth form having gained new skills and new interests alongside perhaps their primary interest, whether that's in football, golf, or music.
Yeah, and I've heard you use the phrase like one-dimensional quite a bit, and I think that we've all come across, again, going back to the focus, this sole almost obsession with academics and scores. And, on the other end, when the children leave you, presumably they go to university, and the universities are definitely looking for multi-dimensional adults.
Absolutely.
Young adults, right?
Absolutely. And I think the workplace of the 21st century is looking for people with soft skills. For example, Google aren't looking for great coders and programmers these days. They're looking for very creative individuals, people who can confidently communicate their ideas and can demonstrate an ability to be flexible and adaptive in the workplace. So obviously, academic performance it does matter. Of course it does, and academic results matter. But fundamentally, it's incumbent upon all of us as educators to help our children to be able to flourish in the modern workplace, but not just professionally, but also in terms of their private lives as well. Because I think when lives unravel in adulthood, it's not because you didn't get the latest promotion at work, or rarely is that the cause. It's often because of turmoil in one's private life as well. So we take very seriously, and I think independent schools in the UK by and large, are very, very good at educating the whole person and thinking really deeply about what it is that we can do to help the young people in our care to flourish and to live successful lives in every regard. And of course, academic success is part of that. We believe intrinsically here at Rossall that there's a real virtue in committing to excellence, to pursuing excellence. And we believe it's our responsibility to inspire young people to pursue excellence in whatever it is that they choose to do. We recognize that everybody has a different starting point, but we are very keen that they embrace the notion that they should commit. And I think I've used the word commit quite a few times, but we're very keen that we can inspire them to commit to fulfill their potential in their chosen fields. Really important aspect. And that ethos, that pursuit of excellence, underlies much of the culture and ethos of the school itself.
Thank you. We've strayed a little bit away from the Man City, the football program,
Yeah.
and also want to get to the Steinway program. But super interesting. I mean, it's always interesting. Back to the Man City. I mean, so for those children who do want to play to an elite level, we should mention it's for girls and boys. Could you just explain briefly, like, how does their week differ from a typical child who's not in the program?
Okay, so the first thing to say is that we have a really dedicated professional team at school. We have 2 full-time Manchester City Football Club coaches who are with us, and they're based at school. So whereas our students will on occasion travel to the Etihad, and they train at AFC Fylde, which is a fantastic facility, it's a local club, fundamentally their coaches are with them at school. They have sessions before school, they have sessions after school. For some of our sixth formers, some of the individual sessions are built into the timetable, or we were able to build them into the timetable. Obviously, for our GCSE students who are doing the full suite of qualifications at that age, it's very much after schools, before schools. And of course, being a boarding school means that we have our children on Saturdays and Sundays. As a school, we play about 600 fixtures a year. We field many, many teams, and we participate in the Huddle League, which is the Premier League, if you like, of independent schools in the UK. And we also participate in a number of national competitions. And our girls have been national champions in the UK for 2 of the last 3 years. Our boys have reached numerous finals at different age groups as well. So in terms of the quality of what we're doing, then we are right up there on the national stage. And many of our players have represented their country at their relevant age group, or indeed in 1 or 2 cases actually played for their country in the World Cup qualifiers, or the last set of World Cup qualifiers, which is extraordinary. I think, Ruth, I may have lost you.
Okay. I did drop out for the very last bit there, but I think I'm back. I'm very sorry about that. That sounds amazing. Incredible. Yeah. And so if you do have, if parents are listening or watching this on catch up and they have children interested in playing football to an elite standard, then we'll drop the details below, and then they can definitely have a chat with you and the coaches directly. Let's use up the remaining time, because it's not only football that you are specialising in at Rossall School. As you said, you're a music major. So tell us about the Steinway programme. That sounds super interesting.
So when I arrived at Rossall some years ago, we had a thriving music department. We have a wonderful chapel choir. We put on musicals. We're very, very lucky in the northwest of England to be close to Liverpool and Manchester. So we have the Halle Orchestra. We have great professors from the Royal Northern College of Music who can come and teach our pupils. And we also have the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic. So we are the northwest of England, outside of London. If there's one place you want to be, then I would say the northwest of England is a really fantastic place for the arts. So we had a small number of really superb pianists in the school. As I said, I myself went to the Junior Guildhall School of Music, then went off to Cambridge to read music. My brother runs the National Chamber Music School Pro Corder in the UK as well. So that's the sort of world that I've inhabited growing up and into adulthood. We had a number of really superb pianists, and I was very aware of the fact that we had the potential to do something really special. And again, it's that fact in exactly the same way that many families will choose for their children to go to a great independent school with a great offering in football or golf or whatever it is. My sense is that for many children, we have 2 or 3 very specialist music schools in the UK, such as the Yehudi Menuhin School, the Purcell School, and Cheetham School. They're fantastic, but again, it's about providing the opportunity for people for young people to receive excellent tuition, but also to maintain their academics as well, and to be part of a really diverse community, because we feel that there's a real virtue in growing up alongside young people who are not all musicians or all footballers or all golfers or all absolutely determined to read mathematics at university, for example. We really think that there's so much to be gained intellectually and culturally from being part of a diverse community. So with that in mind, we gradually explored the possibility of setting up the program. We were very keen to partner with Steinway. Obviously, throughout the world, I think the name Steinway is synonymous with excellence and elite performance. We're very, very fortunate that our piano program, which has grown in size considerably since we set it up 2 or 3 years ago, is led by Victor Lim, a really, really inspirational young artist who is recording his first CD of music by the English composer, or the Irish composer actually, Charles Villiers-Stanford, with Naxos Records, and that will be released later this year. But we have names working with us as associate professors who will be very familiar with those who have an interest in classical music. So, for example, Catherine Stott, who is the accompanist of the world-famous cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and a brilliant recording artist and recitalist in her own right. She's one of our associate professors. Martin Roscoe, who's taught at the Royal Northern College and the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, and has a glittering concert career as a chamber musician, as an accompanist, and as a soloist. Our children get to have masterclasses with him very, very regularly as well. So the structure of the program itself, there's a real focus on one-to-one tuition, as you'd imagine, with really superb teachers, faculty members, but also we want to help our pianists to develop as musicians. So sight reading skills, score reading, keyboard skills, chamber music, being an accompanist. We talk about performance practice a good deal. So again, it's about providing an experience for young people that goes way beyond what you would normally expect to find in a school with a healthy music department. Now, our musicians do take a very significant part, or our pianists, should I say, they also contribute to the wider performing arts life of the school. And again, it's obviously focus is very important. You need focus to achieve excellence. But we're increasingly, I think the musicians within the 21st century need to be able to function, and they need to be adaptive, they need to be flexible, they need to be able to improvise. They need to be able, the nature of the music or the freelance music business is that you need to be versatile. And so we're very keen that our pianists also sing in the chapel choir, take part in musicals, and really throw themselves into the wider cultural life of the school as well.
Wow. So interesting. I mean, so again, I just go, these children are so fortunate to have these opportunities. So these are two programs, obviously, that you offer as specialties. I know that we don't have time to talk about, you've got performing arts programs. Just tell us a little bit. You mentioned that the Northwest was the place to be for the culture, and is that outside of London?
Yeah, well, and I say this. I say this very much as a southerner. I grew up in Essex. I was very fortunate. We had
Oh,
London on
me
the
too.
doorstep. But at the same time, we have English National Opera moving to Manchester. Manchester itself has fantastic concert halls like the Bridgewater. We have the Manchester Camerata. We have the Halle. We've got the BBC Philharmonic based in Manchester. Obviously, we talked about the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic. So we've got a very lively art scene. So you've got probably the biggest music school in the UK. Chetham's also is in Manchester. We have a good relationship with them as well. So there's a huge amount of artistic activity happening in the Northwest. And one of the great joys as a southerner, my previous school was I was deputy head of Brentwood School in Essex, and I grew up in Colchester. So for me, to sort of move, as I did, to Lancashire 6 years ago, and to have the opportunity to really throw myself into the art scene up here has been an absolute joy. And I don't think that for our children, well, they're so fortunate in terms of the fact we take them obviously regularly to concerts in Manchester and Liverpool, and that they're listening, they're in school in the afternoon, and then in the evening there they are listening to world-class artists at the very peak of their.
Yeah. I've got a question for you in a moment, and then also we want to end with the details of the event on the 21st.
Yes.
But I just wanted to ask you, for international students, again, we often find that, you know, the distance from London is a concern, but presumably your international students would fly from Manchester, is that correct?
Yeah. So, for example, if you're flying to Thailand or Hong Kong, then obviously Manchester is the place to fly to. You can fly to London, but sometimes it necessitates, you know, a change of a flight in Paris or Frankfurt. Or my favourite, if I'm going to Hong Kong, is to fly through Helsinki, actually. But our students, we don't find, in that sense, as a boarding school, probably one of the 2 or 3 biggest boarding schools in the Northwest, well, definitely. We don't find that as a barrier. And I would say that for our parents, they tend to be wowed by our coastal location, the fact we've got the Lake District on our doorstep, we've got the Yorkshire Dales, we've got the Trough of Bowland. We are also, you know, we can do day trips to Edinburgh as well, and our students do that. We have a very busy weekend program of activities. So in terms of artistically, culturally, creatively, but also the natural landscape as well, I think that it's easy to see why the Northwest is a really popular choice for families from around the world.
Yeah. I'm also from Essex, so we'll have to have that conversation another time. But I also, London is it's a very different place to be studying, either for school or university. And there's a whole world, there's a whole of England, the whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, and certainly there's an appeal there. A question that came in from, you know, is it too late to enter a football academy at 16 plus? So that would mean that it's just 2 years. So in your system, you said you offer BTECs and A levels, but that would just mean years
Yes.
12 and 13.
Yeah.
Is it too late?
Well, experience would tell us. I mean, obviously, it depends upon what you've done up to that point in time. But experience tells us that some of our sixth formers who do join us and regularly join us for year 12 and year 13 do extraordinarily well. I mean, actually, I think one of the real the great players in just this sort of first 10 days or so is a student who has come in to year 12. And in terms of looking at outcomes, because I think as parents, we all think very carefully about outcomes, students who join us in year 12 often go on to achieve a professional contract or to go on to a scholarship, 100% scholarship, very often in the US, or go off and do something at university in the UK or in Europe. So we haven't seen any reason to suggest to us that coming into the sixth form and doing 2 years with us is anything other than a really positive experience.
Okay, so not too late in a nutshell. Thank you for that. So we need to wrap up. What we need to say now is, if parents are interested in getting in touch with you, they can do so. We'll put some links down in the email and all of that. But you are coming to Hong Kong on the 21st of September.
Yes, so Adam Corkwell, who is our Director of Global Partnerships and Head of Admissions, he will be, I think, with you in Hong Kong. I believe he's at the airport now, actually. I think he's setting off to Hong Kong today. And I know he's very, very much looking forward to being with you and flying the flag for Rossall, but also in a wider sense, obviously, for independent education in the UK as well. So yes, we'll very much be with you.
So thank you for joining us today, Jeremy. Thank you to those of you who watched live. If you're watching on catch up, we'll put all the links and all of that below. And we'd love to meet you on the 21st of September at the Ocean Park Marriott, where you can come say hi to us. You can come say hi to Rossall School and 60, 70 other educational institutions as well. So thank you very much, Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to those. I'll be back. Thank you so much. I'll be back on the live next Thursday, 6 p.m. in its regular format, which will just be Q&A with myself. Thank you and have a lovely evening.